The life of a medieval knight is often romanticized in popular culture, depicted primarily through the lens of battles, jousts, and heroic deeds. Yet the reality of knighthood extended far beyond the battlefield. Knights led a disciplined and rigorous life, shaped by social expectations, military training, moral codes, and daily routines that demanded both physical endurance and mental resilience. Understanding the world of a medieval knight requires looking closely at the myriad aspects of their existence, from early training and armor preparation to the daily rituals that defined their identity. The journey to knighthood began long before a young man first donned a sword. Training typically started in childhood, often around the age of 7, when boys from noble families were sent to live as pages in another household. This practice served multiple purposes. It introduced them to the intricacies of noble etiquette, exposed them to the responsibilities of leadership, and allowed them to learn fundamental combat skills under the guidance of experienced knights. Pages spent their days attending to the needs of their lord, learning to ride horses, handle weapons, and maintain proper manners at court. These early lessons were not merely practical. They instilled a sense of discipline, loyalty, and respect for hierarchy, values that would remain central throughout a knight's life. By the age of 14 or 15, a page could be promoted to the status of a squire. The squire's life was physically demanding and closely linked to the responsibilities of combat. Squires were tasked with caring for their knight's armor, weapons, and horses, a duty that required strength, attention to detail, and endurance. Armor, in particular, was a significant focus. A knight's armor was heavy, often weighing between 45 to 55 pounds, and required careful maintenance to remain effective in battle. Squires learned to polish, repair, and properly fit plate and chainmail, ensuring that every piece could protect their lord in the chaos of combat. The process was exacting. Even a small crack or loose strap could prove fatal. Handling and maintaining such equipment demanded both technical skill and a deep understanding of its purpose, forming the foundation of a squire's practical education. Training in combat was equally rigorous. Squires practiced with a variety of weapons, including swords, lances, maces, and polearms. They participated in mock battles and tournaments, learning to fight both on foot and horseback. Jousting, though often seen as ceremonial today, was an essential skill that tested balance, precision, and courage. Sparring sessions were conducted under the supervision of experienced knights, emphasizing not only technique, but also strategy, timing, and composure under pressure. Beyond weapons, knights were expected to develop agility, strength, and stamina through running, swimming, wrestling, and horseback riding. The squire's life was physically grueling, with long hours of practice designed to build endurance and prepare them for the chaos of real combat. Education for a knight went beyond physical training. Squires were also taught the codes of chivalry, a moral framework that dictated behavior both on and off the battlefield. Courage, loyalty, honor, and protection of the weak were central tenets. Knowledge of heraldry, tactics, and even basic literacy became increasingly important as knights needed to navigate both warfare and the intricacies of noble society. Understanding these principles was essential, for a knight's reputation was as valuable as his skill with a sword. A single act of dishonor could tarnish a knight's legacy, while acts of valor and service elevated both personal and familial prestige. Daily life for a knight, once fully initiated, was a balance between martial readiness, household duties, and social obligations. Knights often spent their mornings training or exercising, maintaining peak physical condition, or attending to the care of their weapons and horses. The bond between a knight and his horse was of paramount importance. Cavalry played a decisive role in medieval warfare, and a knight's skill in riding could determine victory or defeat. Horses were carefully bred and trained, and knights developed a deep understanding of their mounts, learning to anticipate their movements and manage their strength in combat. Grooming, feeding, and exercising horses were daily rituals that reflected the knight's dedication to both his weaponry and his equine companion. Armour played a central role in a knight's daily existence. The suit of armour was both protective and symbolic, a statement of status and identity. Knights learned to don and remove their armour efficiently, a process that could take considerable time. Each piece served a purpose. Helmets protected the head, gauntlets shielded the hands, greaves guarded the legs, and chainmail beneath the plate armour provided additional defence. Maintenance was critical. Metal needed regular polishing to prevent rust, and leather straps required inspection to avoid breakage during combat. Beyond practical concerns, the armour was an extension of the knight's persona, adorned with heraldic symbols that broadcasted lineage, allegiance, and accomplishments to allies and enemies alike. Meals and sustenance were another essential part of the knightly routine. Knights required a diet rich in protein and calories to sustain the energy demands of training and combat. Feasts often included roasted meats, bread, cheese, and seasonal vegetables, while lighter meals such as porridge were common during training or campaigns. Food preparation and etiquette were important, particularly in noble households, where a knight's conduct at the table reflected discipline and respect. Beyond nutrition, communal meals reinforced social bonds among knights, fostering camaraderie and a sense of collective identity within the order or household. Knights also devoted significant time to religious observance. Christianity played a central role in shaping the medieval worldview, and knights were expected to uphold spiritual as well as martial ideals. Daily prayers, attendance at Mass, and participation in religious festivals were integral to life, intertwining faith with service and valour. The Church not only provided moral guidance, but also sanctioned military campaigns, reinforcing the intertwining of spiritual duty and martial responsibility. Pilgrimages, or visits to holy sites, were undertaken by some knights, blending devotion with personal reflection, and reinforcing the notion that true knighthood encompassed both body and soul. Social obligations and governance were also part of a knight's life, particularly for those who held land or served a lord. Knights often acted as administrators, enforcing laws, managing estates, and overseeing peasants and vassals. They were expected to mediate disputes, maintain order, and protect the territory under their care. These responsibilities required strategic thinking, negotiation skills, and an understanding of local politics. In times of peace, a knight's influence often stemmed more from leadership and counsel than from combat prowess, highlighting the multifaceted nature of the role. Despite the structured life, leisure and recreation were also present, though often aligned with martial or social objectives. Hunting was a favoured pastime, providing both sport and a way to sharpen skills in tracking, archery, and horsemanship. Tournaments and jousts offered opportunities to display prowess, gain recognition, and build alliances. Music, storytelling, and poetry were appreciated, particularly among cultured knights, reflecting an education that balanced martial and intellectual refinement. These activities reinforced both status and personal development, contributing to the holistic formation of the knight as a warrior, leader, and gentleman. Campaigns and military service punctuated periods of a knight's routine, but even these were carefully managed. Logistics, communication, and discipline were crucial, and knights were expected to maintain their arms and armour, ensure the readiness of horses, and train younger squires within the unit. Discipline extended beyond preparation. Knights had to demonstrate strategic awareness, adhere to the rules of engagement, and coordinate with fellow soldiers. Valour in battle was important, but so too was the ability to act as a cohesive force within the larger military structure. Success depended not only on skill, but also on teamwork, foresight, and adherence to the chivalric code. In addition to martial skills, knights were taught diplomacy, and etiquette. They frequently interacted with nobles, royalty, and foreign emissaries. Understanding protocol, language, and negotiation allowed knights to act as emissaries and representatives of their lords. Negotiating alliances, resolving conflicts, and maintaining honour in correspondence were critical components of their responsibilities. The life of a knight required mastery of both sword and speech, with diplomacy often proving as vital as martial prowess. Despite their elevated status, knights faced numerous challenges in daily life. Injuries, disease, and the physical toll of training and armour were constant concerns. Maintaining vigilance against theft, rebellion, or political intrigue demanded mental acuity. Knights had to balance personal ambition with loyalty, ambition with discipline, and courage with prudence. The life of a medieval knight was therefore a constant negotiation between physical demands, moral expectations, and social responsibilities. Ultimately, the life of a medieval knight extended far beyond the battlefield. It was a structured existence shaped by training, ritual, and responsibility. From the formative years as a page, through the trials of a squire, to the disciplined routine of a fully fledged knight, every aspect of life emphasized preparation, honour, and personal growth. Knights embodied a combination of physical strength, intellectual skill, spiritual devotion, and social acumen. They were warriors, administrators, mentors, and symbols of the ideals of chivalry. The romantic image of the knight charging into battle only captures a fragment of the truth. Behind the legends were men and women who dedicated themselves to mastering their bodies, minds, and spirits, navigating a complex world of obligations and expectations. Their armour, weapons, and horses were tools of both survival and status, while their daily routines fostered discipline, resilience, and ethical conduct. Meals, prayers, social interactions, and leisure activities all reinforced a life structured around service, honour, and personal development. In examining the life of a medieval knight beyond battles, one discovers a world rich with ritual, dedication, and purpose. The rigorous training, meticulous care of armour, spiritual devotion, and adherence to the chivalric code all highlight the complexities of knighthood. Far from a life defined solely by conflict, the knight's existence represented an integration of body, mind, and spirit, emphasizing growth, responsibility, and ethical conduct. The medieval knight was not merely a fighter. He was a disciplined individual, striving to embody the ideals of courage, loyalty, wisdom, and honour in every aspect of life.